sister. She's a dope painter, so
well, hopefully you can hear me. I'm happy to be here with you. And talk about art.
that's right. Yes. And then we have Justin. He's a dope photographer, a dope activist, one the chairperson for the Disability Pride Parade. So, yes.
So my name is Justin Cooper. As Fya mentioned, I am a filmmaker, a photographer, activist in the disability community, and I am glad to be here with you all and be on this awesome panel.
Yes, and then last but not least, we have Glenn, who now meaning he's working with Project Osmosis, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you more, and you can talk a little bit all the dope stuff you do.
Well, my name is Glenn Stewart Jr., and I'm a multimedia art director, currently working for Chicago Public Schools, and I am one of the mentors at Osmosis.
Yes. Okay, so just getting right into it, I want to ask each of y'all, how did you become an artist?
Sorry.
Yeah, Justin, you can take it.
I can take off with that. So I've been an artist for close to a decade, and sort of like my journey into like becoming an artist is like it's kind of wild. So I started like thinking about becoming an artist while I was a student at DePaul University, right? And so when I first came to DePaul, I got into business, and I realized that like being a business major was something that I did not want to be a part of because one, I hated math, and two, I just didn't want to be a part of that at all. And so I wound up like switching my major to communication. And through that process, I actually wound up taking this interesting class that was like focused on performing art. And through that process, I found out, oh, okay, this is something that like I might want to do, might be able to get into and be a part of. And through that, I actually got into a class that was focused on media representation. And through this process, I was seeing like way too many stories of like people with disabilities told from a non-disabled perspective and non-disabled point of view. And listening to that, I was just like, well, I'm hearing all these folks, share their stories, from that perspective, but we're hearing a lot of stories from a disability perspective. And so through that process, I created an idea called the Wheelchair Chronicles. And the Wheelchair Chronicles, through the help of a couple of mentors at DePaul, really talked about, like my life, in a wheelchair and my disability and the things that I go through as a Black disabled man. And, through that process, it came from an idea to like an actual film that I started working on in 2012. And, from that point, it like really like springboarded like my career into an artist, because without that film, I wouldn't have got into like, disability activism and advocacy. Through that film, I would have met like so many awesome disability advocates in our community who are just so many, just awesome, badass people in themselves. And, without that, like I would be the photographer where I'm at today. So, through that journey, like of just not like hearing or seeing people like me being represented, in media, and not the stories that were not being told, from our perspective. That sort of was like the jumping off point for my career as an artist today.
Okay, cool. Genevieve?
I would say I was born an artist, but when I was 20 years old, about 11 years ago, I was in a car accident, and then I made disabled, and I had art therapy to rehab. So the accident took my voice, but through art therapy I started to paint. And I realized I was a painter, and I found my new voice through painting. And I've been painting ever since. My undergrad degree is in women gender studies. I originally did studio arts, but changed my major due to this discrimination in the art school. And I found feminism and disability justice to really inform my painting.
Okay, Martin. Wait, I think I'd be pronouncing it because you said something totally different that I haven't heard before.
Right. So most often I introduce myself as Martin, but today I introduce myself as Martin. So that's just me. But in terms of being an artist, I think my identification as an artist is still emerging. And I think it is starting to grow in my association with students and others. And you shared a little bit about that. I think that's where my identification started to grow. And I've read a little bit of John Berger. John Berger says, it's about ways of seeing. And I think artists have a different way of seeing the world and sharing those things. I think a couple of has already shared their experience and how through their art, they're sharing those kinds of things. So I use photography, I use music. Lately, I've been collecting sounds. Pierre Schaeffer was very instrumental in the concrete music, where the sounds of our world seem to fascinate me now more and more. And so I think to answer the question, I think we're just discovering, and I'm just discovering and identifying as an artist now.
Okay, cool. I like the sound aspect of it too. And especially, cause I did an art poster where I was thinking about different ways to promote this and just thinking about the sounds of trauma. What all I've been through, how do it sound, how do we relate to trauma? So I find that very interesting. But yeah, go ahead.
I think, the question was I think it was how did you become an artist?
Yeah.
How did you become an artist?
Mm-hmm.
And with that question, I look at it as you don't become an artist, either you are or you're not. Or the other side is maybe you just have to discover the artist in yourself. Because some people think that, if you can draw, you're an artist. If you can paint, you're an artist. But there's so many other things that I found out through my career that is more than just drawing and painting and stuff like that. So my journey, I think, started with watching my dad. He's an artist. So I would watch him draw, and I would watch him go to work. He's a graphic designer. So I kind of grew up in that industry, going to work with him and seeing him work on his stuff or whatever. So as I would see him draw and stuff around the house and sketch out ideas and stuff like that, and then I thought that was one part of it. And then when he started taking me to the agencies, with him at work, I started seeing the commercial side of it. Billboards, posters, TV, stuff like that. I'm like, first of all, this is a job. They just having fun. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. So it helped me see those. I was fortunate to see those other sides of it. So I kind of saw where I could go instead of the conventional doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever. I'm like, well, it's a whole nother, and you can get paid for this? Have fun. So anyway, I started drawing comic books, family portraits, stuff like that, and you in art class in school and stuff like that. So I saw that side, I really liked it, and I saw that I could actually have a career doing this stuff. So that went on, through high school, and then on to college. I went to Atlanta College of Art, but the whole time, I think I was telling the story the other day, how when I was in grammar school, I couldn't wait to get to high school so I can get so I could get like I was waiting the whole time because I knew what it was since I was like 4 years old. So anyway, that's how I became, the art director I am today. But then, as you said, I feel like I'm still evolving because when I got to school, I have a degree in graphic design, fine arts. But then, when I came out in 1997, I had a motorcycle accident. So that's why I ended up in my chair. But when I started getting to the industry, I started learning other things that I can do still in my chair. So I could edit, I could animate, I could shoot video, I could still do all graphic design stuff. So I was still able to keep going. And every year you learn something else. It's no longer you just say this. You got to learn how to run a website, you got to learn how to edit, you got to learn how to shoot, photography, whatever. But then my foundation was I can sketch, I can draw, whatever. So it gives me all those things, but like you said, you're constantly evolving into what, whatever you want to do. So as an artist, you just always
Yeah, I found it interesting because like I was in a car accident using a motorcycle. I think Jennifer, you said it's an accident, and just like how just like acquiring a disability, and like from like age 13, and just using arts and having to find something to help you cope with it. Because I know for me, like before my accident, life was totally different. Then after my accident, it was like I was in a foreign parallel universe. And so like the arts is so important. But like the next question is like, I want to start with you, Justin. What is some of your major accomplishments and milestones that you have reached in your art career?
Well, I think like, for me, obviously like the Wheelchair Chronicles is like a major accomplishment for me because, that was like a 4-year journey because I was doing that work while I was like, putting that together while I was still a student at the call. So I'm still like, I'm being a student, but I'm also like trying to put this project together. So there was always a lot of stop and go. I was always trying to put this all together. And so like when it finally came together, like in 2017, I felt like that was such a huge accomplishment, for me. And like it really got my name out there for people to like at least be familiar with my work. And I think like some of the accomplishments that I've gotten, like especially during the pandemic, it's felt like my career just really took off like during this time period. And I actually became a residency fellow with an organization called 3 Arts and another disability-related group called Bodies of Work. And through that process, it really gave me a focus on in my work as a photographer, and really trying to focus on the work that I'm doing. And that was a huge accomplishment for me because like now like I'm oftentimes have been in awe of like a lot of disabled artists in the community and being fascinated by the work that they do. And now I think a major accomplishment for me is like having those same disabled artists from different backgrounds come up and be like knowing my name, and it's like, oh, you actually know who I am. Like you're like, oh, this is good. Like you're familiar with your work, and getting that highlight from like other peers in the disability community is like a major highlight for me. But like just doing continuing to do the work that I'm doing, and really just being a part of just these different communities. And another accomplishment for me is a few months ago, I held like a workshop at the MCA. And I'm like, oh, like now there's these people in these major art institutions now want to hear my voice, what I have to say about in terms of like dealing with disability, dealing with the accessibility in a lot of these places, and like people wanting to hear my voice and like my opinion on like how like we deal with accessibility in these places. That's like now I'm in the door, and they can't kick me out. You know what I mean? So like that's like a huge accomplishment for me, and I want to continue to build like upon that, because like we want to continue to build what we have as disabled artists. We want to be able to kick down doors that have oftentimes have been blocked from us purposely, and like that's me. Like I said, I'm here now. So you can't do shit. You can't tell me a damn thing. So
In that order.
there you go.
Yeah, so like generally, what's like some of your biggest accomplishments and milestones?
I would say I'm still like I'm the way there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really career, and I really have a lot of drive, and I have so much more to learn and grow as an artist. But in the past year, I feel like I was residencies not just to listen to the arts and possible. And I'm so grateful for the disabled community. Because, without a community, who are community, like, for the purpose of life, for me, it's to help us to influence. And even though I'm a painter, and to think of a painter just working alone in my studio, but I've had the honor to collaborate with other disabled artists of a different art medium. And I think that's a huge accomplishment for me to be able to be in the inside of someone else's artist process and get inspiration from others and continue this journey of growing and expressing and trying to make my communities a little bit better.
Okay, what about you? Wait, I want to pronounce it how you said it. Martin.
That's right. I used to tutor a little boy who was 4 years old and he was like, Martin! But at any rate, I guess for me, and it really is inspired by you, what you said, is the miraculous realization that I'm not in competition with any other artist. Is the milestone for me that I can be a part of the community and not apart from. And my mentality has always been, I never want to be a part of a group that would have me for a member. But I'm really happy to be a part of a creative community that is ongoing and a flowing wellspring. And that's a milestone for me. To be able to want to be a part of, and to know that I don't have to be faster or stronger or better or more creative, but that I can be amongst you and we can make each other better. I think that's the milestone for me.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part, because I know for me, like while I was at SIC and I was hearing some of these stories of like what some of these other white students said that they was building robots while in high school. Then I'm like, okay, I'm a little black girl coming from the south side of Chicago. We ain't have nothing like that. So it's like trying all these different things and not realizing like I was like so many steps behind everybody, because I had to go outside of my community to SIC to find how I can live an independent life. And it wasn't until like my second year when I started thinking about I want to document my experience of being like a black woman, a member of the African diaspora, and a person now living with a disability. So I think that's real important instead of thinking about being this commercialized society where it's a competition, but being our full self and when creating. So yeah. Well, let's hear all about it.
I think as far as milestones, I could name a lot of projects I worked on and clients and agencies and stuff like that. Like we work with Mazda, BP, and Walmart, and Coors, and like all the different agencies. I can keep going, but a milestone for me, having a disability, working in this industry for 20-something years, to me is a milestone enough. Like the stuff that we got to deal with every day, people don't even know. Just getting dressed, just get dressed every day, going to work every day, dealing with people at work, people on public transportation, how people treat you, how people look at you. We all know some of that. So that's a milestone for me, just being able to keep going every day and being blessed to be in this industry or whatever and still, make a living and stuff like that, but just to keep on going. But that, like I said, I can name a lot of stuff I worked on and places I worked and stuff like that. But to me, that's the milestone, just to keep going every day, knowing the challenges you're going to face every day. Like every day. Not like, okay, it's over in 6 weeks. That's what people don't realize. You ain't got the flu. You ain't got a cold. You gotta keep dealing with this stuff. But overall, I'm happy to do what I'm doing, and like you said, evolving all the time. And I think I've reached this point in my career, like you said, you're not gonna compete against anybody. You just kind of, work within yourself and evolve in these areas.
Okay, cool. And so, like, the last question before we open it up to the audience, like, what advice will you give to someone that's a member of the BIPOC community that also have like a disability? Because like just being like a person of color, you gotta deal with like ableism from non-disabled people, then racism from the disability community. Then if you're a woman, you gotta deal with misogyny. Then if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you gotta deal with homophobia or transphobia, like all these isms. So what is like advice that you would give to someone that have a disability that want to make art their lifestyle, their career, to help them live a more independent and successful life? Let's start with you, Justin.
I think my advice is, especially for the younger generation of disabled artists, coming up, is like, no matter what idea you have, nobody can take that from you. I mean, that's one thing I will always tell people, is like, if you got an idea, go with it, run with it. With the ideas I've had people, even when I was coming up early on with the Wheelchair Chronicles, I had detractors. I had people who thought I wasn't going to be able to do this, or I wasn't going to be able to put this all together. And, knowing in myself and just having that confidence in myself and confidence in my abilities, that really took me to where I am today. And I also, that's why I want to tell our younger artists coming up, it's like, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to tell you that, you're not good enough. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to detract you. Exactly. There's a lot of people that's going to tell you, you're never going to make it. You're never going to be this. And I just tell them, no, you got this. You got the skills. You got the talent. You can do whatever you want in this world. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yes. Okay, Jet, what's your advice?
To piggyback off just a little bit, is definitely be brave and get yourself out there, show your work, look for artists' cause, and some venues won't be accommodating, won't be discriminatory, but show up anyway. Seeing an artist when you first meet people, show their work in the phone, talk about it in the media posts, and just be brave, be fearless, and move with your heart. Nothing else.
Hey. Is that you, Marty?
That's some heavy stuff right there. I guess two things come to mind, and that's what everyone's demonstrating to me, and that's to be authentic, be who you are. And because people can spot a phone, they can spot a con. And so when you're authentic, when you present, where you came from and what your experience is amongst your talents, that's what really makes your light shine. And then to remember a small word, but it's so powerful, and that's we. To share what you have, to share your experience, to share your resources, because alone it's much harder. But if we can learn to share our ideas, our resources, unity, creativeness, that's your idea about the collaboration, your experience of collaboration, that just demonstrates the power. So I'll stick with those two things, and I think those two ideas will take an individual fall.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say like Martin was like my advisor, and as I see and I remember all the conversations that we have, and like you just have like a good heart, and I really appreciate you for that. You're welcome. Yeah, what's your advice?
So, my advice, I think, for somebody with disability, as an artist, multiple artist, whatever it is, to whatever you can do that to the best that you can. Because there's some challenges, might be a walking challenge or voice or whatever, whatever it might be. Figure out what you can do and try to be the best at that. And what I tried to do was, after my accident, I said, well, what am I gonna do? Whatever, I'm like, that still working. Like, and is that gonna be good enough? Because you can't do the walking around part. So what I did was, I said, I know stuff I learned, like when I got to school, basic stuff was Photoshop, design, Illustrator. Back then it was Corp Express. I go way back anyway. So that was like the basic stuff. After that, you start seeing stuff like Flash. People start building websites, stuff like that. I said, I'm gonna learn everything I can. So I'm gonna be so valuable, they're not gonna be able to get rid of me. Not that they wanted to, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't know, it's always something you're gonna, not be able to do physically. So, a long story short, one agency I worked at, they ended up closing down a couple years ago called Communications. And it was piggybacking on what I said earlier, I was like the last art director left because I knew how to do everything. You see what I'm saying? This was out of staff of like 50 people. Not they went on, art directors, whatever, but it was other reasons why they, people left and let go and stuff like that, whatever. But that was one of the reasons I could stay as long as I could, because I could design the production side of it, the videos edited, I could put on the website. So I was a one-man band because I had, figured that out a long time ago. Learn how to do as much as you can with what you got, and that makes you more valuable for people, and then it turned into freelance work. It turned into other people know you and stuff like that. But which was just really activated that you just don't not try to do something. Just try it. You might be able to do it, and make yourself valuable as much as you can with what you can do. And you, like you said, doors will start opening up. People start knowing you. Next thing you know, you're like, oh man, I'm getting work from everywhere. And I was telling my wife this other day. She asked me stuff, and I'm like, I can't do that, but I do so much, she just forgets. So that turns stuff around too, that people stop seeing your disability because you do so much, they just forget. Like, I have people at work tell me that, oh, I forgot, you can't get up the stairs. I'm like, no, we gotta get an elevator, stuff like that. So because I had done so much, it starts to disappear.
Yeah.
Not physically, you know what I'm saying? But they just, and you want them to think about you like that. No, they really, I'm just not in a wheelchair. Like, just, regular people. But that helps a lot too, just supersede the stuff you can do, so that people starts melting away a little bit, So they'll even start, my witness is, because you're so good at what you can do, they'll start making provisions so that you can be there. You see what I'm saying? Because I've had some real estate stuff I worked on, and I'm like, well, I can't get in the house. They're like, well, we'll just pick you up and put you in it, because they know you're talented and you can get this stuff done. And they trying to make a way for you on their own, because, so people, you meet friends, I call them angels. You meet angels here and there, and they'll like make it comfortable for you because they want what you got. As far as your talent, and they know how, whatever. And like I said, that's how I've learned to navigate through it, and the lessons I've had and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different ways. So don't think you can't do it. People will come, like you said, out of nowhere and start, but you got to put the work in. You got to put the effort in to be able to let people see past.
Yeah, and hearing y'all talk made me think of another reason why I started doing this. Because just thinking about the legacy of Chadwick Boseman. Because I remember right before when he was losing all of that weight, and before we found out that he was battling with stage 4 colon cancer, I seen constantly on Facebook people calling him a crackhead, demonizing him. But when he died from stage 4 colon cancer, he was seen as this hero. And that's the very thing that people with disabilities are either seen as glorified as this godlike figure, or demonized as this villain. Like, you the scum of the earth because society can't keep up. And my thinking is if the film industry was more accessible for people with different types of disability, Chadwick Boseman would still be here with us. And this is why my goal is to make all sectors of the art and media more accessible to people with different types of disabilities. Because I've been talking to people well, there's some jobs even people without disability can't do, but that's not a reason for things to be inaccessible. So yeah, we can open it up to if anybody have any questions for these fabulous panelists.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So I do have a question, and feel free for any of you all to take a shot at it. I'm wondering what advice you would give to someone who is disabled and coming into the art community, either for the first time or being introduced to the art community, as far as how they define their art community, and also ways they could build their own community, whether it's online or a physical location, especially if there's not much community or neighborhood for you and your other angels or friends to create a disability art community. If that makes sense.
I could take that because it's interesting because when I started out, even as a student with Paul starting, with the Wheelchair Chronicles, I didn't know a lot of disabled people within the community. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot about intersectionality and all these other different types of all these other different things until I got actively involved with the disability community. That was kind of where I was able to really find my voice. And as I said earlier, I met so many badass people within that community. And then I got introduced to other artists, within the community, and finding there was this really deep, this deep section of folks who are disability dancers, who were like, painters and doing something with sound and all of these other things. And so it was very like difficult, starting, once I got like acclimated to the community, it was like, oh, there's this wide range of like people who are just awesome within themselves. And that was just starting like to be like acclimated to the community. It was tough for me because like I said, I didn't know a whole lot of people who looked like me. I didn't know a lot of people who were like doing all of this work until I got active in the community. So I think for me, it's really for me now, getting like people who are like young artists who are like coming up, is giving them that space and giving them that community and knowing that they have a place where they can like freely be themselves, where they can freely express themselves from an artistic standpoint. And for me, that's kind of like my purpose now, is really building that community, knowing that hey, you have a place here for people with other artists who understand where you're coming from, who know that hey, we know there's resources out here. We can guide you with that. And so for me, that's where I'm at right now. As end up doing work, as a photographer and continuing. That's how I continue the work I do as a disability advocate and activist. It's really building that sense of community.
Okay, last question, then we got change. Okay, you can ask the question after. Okay, go Ken.
My question actually is to you all. Are you all mentoring anyone? Because this lane is so new and innovative, and I'm just curious if you're bringing people along with you. You said you're not, but you're open.
Yeah.
Take me with you.
But this is not the time with digital technology. It's open space and opportunity. It's time for people with disability to be bold and unapologetic about who we are. Because I know for me, I refuse for society to define who I am and what I can and cannot do. It's space and opportunity. Simple as that. But yeah, next question.
So my question is, I see that most of you all, if not all, are in visual or audio art disciplines. So I wanted to know if you all deal with any resource, organization, mentorship programs for people in the literary arts.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to share your written work. If you like, I can listen to some resources for artists, cause and poetry.
Yeah.
They're always looking for. I love it. I mean, obviously we know it.
Yeah, and also you should definitely check out the resource guide that me and TJ co-authored, because TJ provide a lot of grants and opportunities for disabled artists and entrepreneurs. So I can send you the link to it, but it's called Being Black and Disabled is a New Cool. So yeah, it's there because I got pee.
I just want to ask one last question.
Yeah, well, I can go. I gotta go.
Okay. My question is, for people like myself that wouldn't necessarily identify with physical ability, how could we better engage with people that have noticeable disabilities? Like, how can we increase the dignity and the humanity in the ways that we are having conversations? How do we work on whatever sort of stigmas in the ways that we, like, I wouldn't know. Like, I know I work hard to make sure I look at people in their eyes. I work hard, to do certain things. But so I'm ignorant. I don't have anybody in my immediate surroundings that has a physical disability. So how can we increase the dignity of exchange?
Yeah, that's a deep question. I think like it's kind of like what we're doing right now. I think is having these type of conversations. I think oftentimes in different settings that I've been in, many folks have been too afraid to approach the conversation when it comes to disability and accessibility. Inaccessibility, because when you have those conversations, it means that there's an issue and that there's people that are biased, towards people with disability. You have these type of biases, and I think it's important when we do talk about this. It's just having that's where the dignity comes in. Is having just conversations with us, being straightforward with us. Because like we don't bite. I mean, these are things that these are like real. Like we deal with a lot of different issues within our community. And I know people that are like, who are not a part of the community, who are not disabled, are afraid to have those conversations. But I think it's very valuable because we get to know each other. You get to know about each other more. You get to know about, oh, okay, well, Justin here, he has a disability, but he's more than that. He's either disabled, he's a disabled man, he's a disabled Black man. And I think, just opening that conversation and opening those doors and having those conversations, I think it's so valuable because it's one of the things that I've learned, as an artist, especially, in spaces that are really not wordy, is really opening that door and really having and just really talking about my disability and being open about it. And I think that really helps those conversations, going forward. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's very important just having those conversations.
Yes, and allow individuals to own their story, to tell you what they need, without you assuming what they need. Leave them asking for help, not touching them and helping. Giving them that respect and opportunity to put a new coverage on.
In my line of work, this is the emphasis. I work in a disability learning resource center, and it's the beginning of all relationships for me, is let's talk.
Right.
And what do you need? Where are the barriers for you? And we use the social justice model because for one person who has the same disability, they may encounter a different barrier. And so that's why it's so important to put the exclamation point on what has been shared already is, how would you get to know anyone? You sit, you talk, non-judgmental, and let's just have the exchange. And the great thing about it is you not only learn about them, but they learn about you. And that's the wonderful part of being part of the humanity and community is let's get to know who we are.
Yeah.
Without shame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, having this conversation is a great beginning already. And just to even ask how they feel about it is good. Because sometimes you just assume, this person needs help doing this, they need help doing that. And I run into that like I'm always talking. She said, you always know whatever. So, I mean, because I'm always moving around, driving or whatever. So, one of the hurdles I have is people always ask me, do you need help with this? And it's fine because you just assume you see somebody in a wheelchair, they need help doing something, which is fine. But after 20 years of hearing the same stuff, you're like, oh my God, you really think I drove to the store? I got in the car, drove to the store, got my chair out, got in it, and went in the store waiting for somebody to help me. Like, I kind of got this down, but they don't know. I got that. So the best thing, like I said, is like you might ask them if they need help and just take it as, okay, they might not need whatever. I've had some people get offended because you don't want them to help you. You're like, man, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I just I open this door about 20 times. I can open the door. But I mean, we understand that. But like you said, just having a conversation, treating us as normal as you can. There's obviously some stuff. But I would say as a community, like I said, if we need help, ask, if not, okay, treat us as normal as you can, just be there if we need you, stuff like that. But one of the biggest things is just give us a chance that somebody without this disability would have. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know until you find out what they can do or not. I will tell you, if I do something from the top shelf, I'm recruiting somebody in the grocery store.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Well, other than that, you know, it's okay.
Like, cause I just want to make, like, we get move around to like the next.
Okay, next thing.
Yeah. So if I text, yeah, well, I don't know, somebody, I'm clutter brain. But yeah, that's all, folks. It's time to get on to the next. Like, I don't know,
Camera upstairs.